It's funny what you start to miss when you don't realize you've lost it. My name is Mark Russell. I'm 37 years old, a senior aircraft engineer based out of Dallas, Texas. My wife, Laura, is the one with the recognizable voice around here. She's the co-host of one of the top late-night radio shows in the metro area. If you've ever been stuck in traffic past midnight with AM radio on, you've probably heard her signing off with that confident, polished cadence. This is Laura on the line, keeping you company after dark. Most people think we're the perfect couple. I guess we look like it. She's stunning, graceful, sharp, always in control, and I have a respectable job that pays well. We've got a nice house in Frisco, a 7-year-old daughter named Claire who's the light of my life, and a kitchen calendar so full of color-coded schedules you'd think we were planning an Olympic bid. Laura and I met during undergrad at Texas A&M. I was deep into my aerospace engineering courses and she was studying communications. We bumped into each other at a campus event. She was covering it for the student radio station, and I was just there for the free pizza. She asked if she could interview me about a student project I was working on. I must have said something that sounded halfway intelligent because she laughed, made a joke about my rocket scientist brain, and then asked for my number. It wasn't smooth sailing from the start. We broke up once during senior year. She had an internship in Houston, and I got offered a co-op in Seattle. But we found our way back after graduation. She moved in with me, then we got married 2 years later. I remember thinking at the time that everything we were building felt solid. Reliable. I like that word. Still do. Laura's career took off fast. She started at a tiny AM station in East Texas, nothing glamorous, but she worked like hell. I used to bring her sandwiches during her shifts and sit in the control room just listening. Then we moved to Dallas and things shifted. Bigger market. More pressure. More eyes on her. She got a co-host spot on a nightly news and talk segment that just kept gaining traction. I remember the first time someone recognized her voice at a grocery store. She laughed it off, but I saw how she stood just a little taller the rest of the day. Her schedule is tough, to say the least. She preps from around 3 in the afternoon, goes live at 7, takes a break, and then back on air at 10. Most nights, she doesn't get home until close to midnight. Sometimes later. And in the mornings, she's still groggy when Claire and I are up getting ready for school and work. We trade smiles over coffee, maybe a quick kiss. But real conversations? They're rare. I handle most of the evenings now: dinner, homework, bedtime stories. I don't mind. Claire and I are close. She asks a lot of questions about space, like her old man. But she's also started asking why mommy is always gone when the stars come out. And I never know quite what to say. Don't get me wrong, I love Laura. I admire the hell out of her. But lately, it feels like we're more like co-managers of a very busy company than husband and wife. We pass each other in the hall, send calendar invites for doctor's appointments and piano recitals. We've got this rhythm, this well-oiled machine of logistics. But there's no music anymore. Sometimes I lie awake in bed, listening to her in the bathroom, wiping off her makeup in silence. I wonder if she misses me too, or if I've just become another piece of her routine. Either way, I miss her. I miss the girl from college radio with the messy bun and the peanut butter sandwich who once laughed so hard she snorted in front of me. Back then, we didn't have much, but we had each other at the same time in the same place. That feels like a luxury now, when I don't know how to get back. It was a Wednesday, one of those slow, overcast Texas afternoons where everything feels stuck in molasses. Darren and I were eating lunch in the break room at the engineering firm, sitting across from each other with microwaved leftovers and our usual back and forth about the Cowboys' chances this year. Laura still doing the late-night thing? Darren asked casually between bites of spaghetti. I nodded. Yeah, every night, like clockwork. She leaves before Claire finishes her homework and doesn't get home until after I'm asleep. He gave me a look, half sympathy, half concern. That's rough, man. It is what it is, I said, trying to shrug it off. I mean, I'm proud of her. She's killing it professionally. But sometimes it feels like I live with a ghost who shares my Netflix account. Darren snorted. Man, that's dark. I poked at my green beans. She says she's got meetings after the 10 o'clock show sometimes. Planning stuff, station strategy. But even when I stay up late, I never hear her come in before 1. Darren raised an eyebrow. You believe her? I paused. That was the first time anyone had asked me that out loud. The question hung in the air like smoke. I want to, I said finally. But I don't know. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. You ever met her boss? That Martin guy. Briefly. At a couple station dinners. He's visiting our floor tomorrow, touring some of the aviation contracts. I overheard Janice talking about it. You should pull him aside. Casually ask about Laura's schedule. I frowned. You want me to what, interrogate her boss like some jealous husband? No, Darren said. Just clarify. If nothing's going on, no harm done. But if something doesn't line up, maybe you get some peace of mind. Or at least a better idea of what you're dealing with. I didn't sleep much that night. My brain kept looping through old conversations with Laura. Little things I'd ignored before. The way she always brushed off questions about her coworkers. How vague she'd become when describing what her post-show meetings were actually about. The next day, I spotted Martin Doyle in the hallway, shaking hands and smiling like a politician. I waited until he was alone near the coffee machine, then walked over. Mr. Doyle, right? Mark Russell. My wife works over at WTXM. Laura. Ah, yes, of course, he said, extending a hand. Great host. The show's doing very well. Thanks, I said, trying to keep my tone casual. She's been saying she's had a lot of late nights lately, extra meetings and whatnot. Martin frowned slightly. Meetings? Yeah, I said. After the 10 o'clock show. She mentioned some team sessions, strategic planning stuff. He shook his head. We haven't done those in weeks. Budget's tight. Most of the after-hours stuff has been cut. I felt something shift in my stomach. So, there haven't been any official meetings? Not for a while, he said, sipping his coffee. Far as I know, Laura's off the clock when she wraps up at 10. Why? I forced a smile. Just wondering. Thanks. I walked back to my desk in a fog. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I couldn't focus. My thoughts were miles away, looping around that one word. Why? Why lie? I wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation. Maybe she was grabbing coffee with coworkers. Maybe she needed time to decompress. But somewhere deep down, I felt something loosen inside me. The kind of quiet unraveling you only notice once the whole thing starts to come apart. The following Monday, I finally said it out loud. I think she's cheating on me, I told Darren as we stood by the vending machine. I hadn't meant to say it. It just slipped out, low and hoarse, like a confession. He blinked. You sure? I shook my head. No. But something's wrong, and I can't pretend it's not eating me alive. He leaned against the wall, his voice low. You want to find out for real? I hesitated. What do you mean? Go to the station. Wait outside. If she's telling the truth, you'll know. If not. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I told Laura I had a systems review that would run late. She didn't question it. Just nodded, barely looking up from her laptop. I watched her as she moved around the kitchen, packing her usual tote with notes and her headphones, like always. Like everything was fine. Claire was already with my sister for the weekend, some school event she'd been excited about. So I had the night to myself. No questions. No interruptions. I pulled into a side lot near the WTXM building around 9:45 p.m. The place was quiet, dim security lights, a handful of cars in the lot, and that unmistakable glow from the windows of the third-floor studio. I waited in the dark, engine off, fingers drumming the steering wheel. At exactly 10:58, Laura walked out the back door. Her long coat fluttered behind her as she crossed the lot, her phone pressed to her ear. I ducked low, my breath caught in my chest. She wasn't heading to her car. She walked past it. Toward a separate entrance, side door, no signage, looked like it hadn't been used in years. She tapped a code into the keypad and slipped inside. I got out and crept closer, sticking to the shadows. Through a narrow basement window, I could just make out a lounge area, old couches, a kitchenette, and a pair of people inside. Laura was one of them. The man was taller, maybe mid-40s, wearing a station-branded jacket. He walked up to her, and she leaned into him without hesitation. He touched her face, kissed her. She kissed him back. I didn't hear a sound, but I felt something collapse. I lifted my phone, hand shaking, and took the photo. Not for revenge. Not yet. Just proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. That the quiet in our house wasn't just in my head. That I hadn't imagined the distance. I stumbled back to the car, legs like lead. Sat in the driver's seat for a long time with the door open, my brain white with noise. Then I drove to my sister's place, picked up Claire, tucked her in at home without saying much. I sat in the dark living room for hours. I stared at the photo, thumb hovering over the screen, unsure what to do with it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash something. But mostly, I wanted to rewind the clock, back to that first college radio event where she made a dumb joke about rocket scientists and scribbled her number on a napkin. She used to laugh with her whole body. Now all I could hear was silence. I waited for the sound of her keys in the door, for the lie that would come wrapped in a kiss, for whatever mask she planned to wear that night. Because this time, I wasn't going to play dumb. I wasn't going to be the only one pretending. Not anymore. She came home at 12:14 a.m., just like always. I was sitting at the kitchen table, lights low, Claire asleep upstairs. Laura walked in and froze when she saw me. Her face flickered, surprise, then caution. "You're up," she said, hanging her coat. Her voice was neutral. "Everything okay?" I slid my phone across the table toward her. The screen was still lit, the photo open, the one I took from outside the station. Her eyes locked on it. For a moment, she didn't blink. "Want to explain this?" Silence. Then she let out a small exhale. Not fear, not even guilt, just resignation. "You followed me. That's what you're going with." I asked. "You lied to me for weeks, and that's your concern?" She sat across from me, not touching the phone. "It's not what it looks like." I laughed, short, bitter. "Laura, I watched you kiss him. It's exactly what it looks like." She looked tired now, rubbing her temples like this was all beneath her. "It's complicated. Try me." She leaned back, arms crossed. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. Ted and I have been spending more time together off air. We connect in a way that's easy." "Ted," I repeated. "Your co-host." "Yeah," she said. Not ashamed. Not apologetic. "He listens. He gets me." "So do I snapped. "Or I used to. Before you shut me out." Her eyes narrowed. "Don't make this about you, Mark." "No? Then who's it about?" "Claire, you disappear every night, lie about meetings, and now I find out this has been going on for God knows how long." "It's not serious," she cut in. "It's just something I need right now. That doesn't mean I'm leaving you." I stared at her. "You are not stopping?" She shook her head, calm. "No. Look, I know this is hard for you to understand, but I'm not giving it up. I need this. And I think, deep down, you knew things between us weren't working. Because you made sure of it. Because life changes, Mark," she said, her voice rising now. "We have different priorities. I have a career. I have a voice. And I'm not going to feel guilty because you miss what we used to be." I felt like I was talking to a stranger. "I can't stay married to someone who treats betrayal like a lifestyle choice," I said quietly. She didn't flinch. "Then don't. File for divorce." "You think I won't?" She looked me dead in the eye. "You go ahead. But this is a no-fault state. You want to go to court? I'll likely get primary custody, the house, and child support. You think they'll punish me for wanting happiness?" I swallowed hard. She stood up, grabbed a water from the fridge. "I'm not hiding anymore. And I'm not apologizing. So that's it." I asked. "You throw away everything for what? Cheap intimacy and a few text messages." She walked toward the hallway, pausing only once to say, "Grow up, Mark. You're not the victim here." And with that, she disappeared into the bedroom. I sat there, stunned, not just by what she did, but by how little she cared. By Friday, Darren knew something was wrong just by the way I dropped into the break room chair. "She admitted it," I said flatly, tearing into a vending machine sandwich. Didn't even try to deny it. He blinked. "Wait, she admitted to the affair?" "Yep. With Ted, her co-host." I shook my head, still hearing her words in my mind. "I'm not apologizing. I need this." It played like a broken record. Darren leaned forward, voice low. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," I muttered. "She's got the law on her side. Custody, the house, everything." He nodded slowly. "Then you need to change the court of public opinion." That got my attention. He leaned closer. "You said you recorded her, right? The conversation? Her admitting it? Saying she wouldn't stop?" "Yeah," I said cautiously. "It's on my phone. And she's a public figure." "Exactly." He let that hang there for a moment. "What if the world heard who she really is?" I stared at him, heart starting to pound. "You're talking about going public." He nodded. "I've seen her shows. Always preaching about family values and loyalty. She talks like she's a pillar of morality. What happens when her audience hears what she really thinks about marriage?" It wasn't just revenge he was offering. It was leverage. Over the weekend, we got to work. Darren came over Saturday night with his laptop and a bottle of bourbon. We sat at my kitchen table like two guys building a bomb. In a way, we were. I pulled every file I had, audio clips from our confrontation, older voicemails, some candid recordings from late-night phone calls where she mocked her listeners behind closed doors. "She actually says this stuff on tape?" Darren said, scrubbing through one clip. Jesus. She sounds like a villain from a courtroom drama. I nodded grimly. She told me her audience is gullible, that they'll eat up whatever she feeds them as long as she sounds confident. We worked through the night, stitching the worst of it together. We opened with her past interview clips, Laura waxing poetic on loyalty, marriage, motherhood, then cut straight to her icy confession. I'm not giving it up. I need this. You're not the victim here. Then we spliced in some of the behind-the-scenes audio, her calling listeners brain-dead suburban wine moms, mocking callers for their low-rent problems. By sunrise, we had a 6-minute masterpiece. Anonymous account. Basic title. No commentary. Just the footage. We uploaded it Sunday morning. By Monday, it had 100,000 views. By Tuesday, 500,000. I watched in silence as the comments poured in, some furious, some stunned, some from loyal listeners saying they'd never turn on her show again. Darren sent it to 2 media blogs he knew. They picked it up immediately. Local radio darling caught trashing fans, husband and leaked clip. It was front page on a local media watchdog site by that afternoon. That night, I packed Claire's bags and drove us to my parents' ranch just west of Waco. I didn't want her seeing any of this. Didn't want her asking questions about why Mommy's face was suddenly all over the internet. We watched the chaos from a safe distance 2 hours south, surrounded by hayfields and silence. And I waited, because I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. By Wednesday morning, it was everywhere. The radio station tried to stay quiet at first, no official statement, just awkwardly edited reruns and a substitute voice filling in for Laura. But the internet didn't wait for permission. Clips from the video Darren and I made were reposted, rehashed, dissected on podcasts and morning talk shows. One segment played her infamous line, "You're not the victim here," over footage of happy family stock images, cut like a parody. It was brutal. And deserved. Then a new headline dropped Thursday afternoon. Radio co-hosts Laura and Ted caught in romantic getaway as scandal brews. Some rival station had sent a tipster and a cameraman to a luxury spa resort near Tyler, one of those places with cold plunges and eucalyptus towels. They had tracked Laura and Ted down, lounging by a pool, sipping something with lime in it. The video wasn't long, just enough. A young producer caught up to them by the spa entrance. "Laura, care to comment on the audio leaks? Is your marriage really over? Is Ted still your co-host, or just your plus one?" Laura tried to laugh it off, slipping on sunglasses like that would protect her. Ted turned white as a sheet. And then the moment. A woman with a blazer stepped into frame. My lawyer. Calm, precise, eyes like steel. "Laura Middleton," she said loud and clear. "You've been served." Laura blinked. "What?" My lawyer held up a manila envelope. "This is a formal petition for divorce on behalf of Mark Russell. You've also been locked out of the Frisco residence per the emergency motion filed this morning." The camera caught everything. Laura's frozen face. Ted mumbling something and backing away like she'd just exploded. The spa employees watching with wide eyes, one of them slowly lowering a smoothie tray. That night, every local station ran with it. Even national blogs picked it up. Radio Queen served divorce papers on camera amid infidelity scandal. Conservative talk host caught mocking her base, marriage and leaked audio. I watched it all from my parents' ranch with Claire curled up on the couch beside me, unaware of what any of it meant. The next day, WTXM announced the inevitable. Effective immediately, we are parting ways with Laura Middleton and Ted Blanton. We thank them for their contributions to the station. Their joint billboard off I-35 was defaced within hours. Someone spray-painted "liar" and "loser" across Laura's face. It made the 6 o'clock news. Darren sent me a grainy photo of it with the caption, "Justice," in Helvetica bold. It should have felt like victory. And in some ways, it did. But mostly, it felt like air coming back into my lungs after being held underwater too long. She had burned it all down, our life, her career, her reputation, and now stood in the ashes like none of it was her fault. But now everyone could see the truth. Not just me. I stood on the back porch of the ranch that night, cold beer in hand, the Texas sky wide and silent above me. It was done. Not the healing, but the damage? The damage had found its light. And she was the one who struck the match. It took a couple weeks for the legal dust to settle, but once the headlines cooled off and the cameras stopped chasing her, Laura went quiet. She didn't fight the divorce, didn't demand the house, didn't even push for shared custody. Her lawyer, some fast-talking guy who wore sunglasses indoors, called mine and said, "My client would like this resolved discreetly." Discreet. After all that? I didn't even bother responding. I just signed the papers when they hit my desk. We finalized it on a Thursday morning. The judge barely looked up, just skimmed the agreement and nodded. Claire stayed with my sister that day. I didn't want her sitting in a courtroom, even for 10 minutes. Laura was a no-show. Her lawyer handled everything, like it was a business transaction. When I got home, the mailbox held the letter, formal confirmation. I had full custody. The house was mine. Claire's school, our routines, the kitchen calendar, everything stayed where it belonged. Laura's only request? Bi-weekly video calls. 30 minutes, twice a month. Nothing more. She'd already taken a job in Portland, teaching communications at a community college. Apparently, radio work was hard to come by when your name trended for all the wrong reasons. Good riddance. That Friday night, Darren and his wife Amanda invited us over. Steak, wine, and that slightly chaotic backyard where their 3 kids ran around with Claire until they were all sweaty and covered in grass stains. Amanda hugged me when we arrived. "I hope you know," she said quietly, "you did what needed to be done." "I know," I said, and I meant it. But my voice cracked anyway. After dinner, Darren handed me a beer and raised his bottle. "To the man who set fire to the script," he said, and rewrote the ending. We clinked bottles. Claire fell asleep in the car on the way home. I carried her inside, tucked her in. She didn't stir, just curled into her pillow with that quiet trust kids have when they believe the world's safe. I stood there for a long time, watching her breathe. That night, once she was down and the house was quiet, I did something I'd been putting off. I drove across town to his small house in Richardson and knocked on the door. Rachel answered. Ted's wife, or ex-wife now. She looked surprised, but not angry. "Mark," she said carefully, "I was wondering when you'd show up." I thought maybe. I trailed off. "You deserve to know everything." I handed her a folder, copies of the recordings, screenshots, transcripts. She didn't say much, just took it and invited me in. We sat at her dining table for over an hour, trading battle scars. Turns out Ted had lied to her too, about the late-night meetings, the on-air chemistry that spilled into real life. She wasn't crying. She looked like I probably had a few weeks ago, hollowed out but still standing. Before I left, I gave her my lawyer's card. "He's good," I said. "Really good." She nodded. "So are you." I don't know what comes next. Not yet. But I do know this. I'm no longer waiting for Laura to come home. I already am home. And that's something no one can take away from me again. A few months later, I packed up everything I owned. Boxes, toys, kitchenware, the worn recliner Claire refused to let me toss, and left Dallas behind. We moved to Houston in early spring. The job offer came from a firm that handled structural design for private aircraft. Senior engineering lead. More flexibility, better pay, and, most importantly, a clean break. I took it without hesitation. Claire didn't even cry when we left. She just asked if our new place would have a backyard big enough for a trampoline. It did. We rented at first, small house, quiet street, a park down the block. Claire made friends fast. She always does. I kept busy settling in, meeting deadlines, making sure dinner was on the table and bedtime stories didn't get skipped. The usual single dad hustle. Then one Saturday, I walked into an open house just to browse. I wasn't planning to buy anything yet. I just needed a distraction. That's when I saw her again. Rachel. She was standing near the kitchen island, clipboard in hand, wearing a gray blazer and jeans. Real estate name tag pinned to her lapel. She smiled like she was expecting me. "Mark Russell," she said. "Long way from Frisco." I laughed. "Rachel Blanton. Didn't know you were in Houston." "Didn't know you were either." I told her about the new job. She told me she'd moved here 2 months back. Fresh start, new license, trying to rebuild. Sounded familiar. I toured the house anyway. It was nothing special, narrow hallway, tiny backyard. But she walked with me, pointing things out, asking about Claire, telling me about a nearby school district with great ratings. We exchanged numbers at the door. "Not for a showing," she said. "Just in case." The text started the next day. At first it was small stuff. Photos of listings she thought I might like. A link to a community yard sale. Then it turned into dinner recommendations. Weather jokes. Updates on how her son was adjusting. 1 week turned into 2, then 3. And suddenly, I was looking forward to her name lighting up my phone more than I wanted to admit. When we finally went out, really went out, it wasn't fancy. Just burgers and beers at a place with sticky tables and killer fries. She wore a hoodie, no makeup, hair tied back. I don't remember the last time I laughed that hard. By summer, Claire had taken to her fast. She started asking if Ms. Rachel was coming to the zoo with us, or if she could show her the drawing she made at school. Rachel always said yes, always knelt down to listen, always looked her in the eye. One night, Claire asked quietly from the back seat, "Is she your new Laura?" I didn't know what to say at first. I glanced at Rachel, who was looking out the window. Then I said, "No, sweetheart. She's just Rachel. And that's perfect." Laura called sometimes. Short video chats with Claire, twice a month. I never interrupted. I stood just outside frame, folding laundry or cleaning dishes, trying not to think about Portland, or what might have been if she hadn't set fire to what we had. Some nights, I still felt it, the scar of it all. The betrayal, the humiliation. But those feelings had dulled into something else. Something more manageable, more distant. I wasn't trying to replace the past anymore. I was building something new. Something small, quiet, and good. Claire and I painted her room yellow. Rachel helped us hang curtains and put together furniture from flat boxes. We cooked pasta, spilled flour, danced in socks on the hardwood floor. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be.